Okay, we now move into exponential and logarithmic equations. When we look at y equals a to the x, you guys know that x is the exponent. What we don't talk about is the vocabulary with a. A is actually called the base. Okay, you learned that probably a long time ago at the beginning of pre-algebra, but it's not vocabulary that we usually use. Now, when we deal with exponential functions, values are going to rise and fall very quickly. Take this example here where a person gets a penny on, or 2 pennies on day 1, it doubles to 4 pennies on day 2, 8 pennies, 16 pennies, etc. By the end of the 30th day, we're already up to $10 million. So just with 2 to the 30th power, we're over, we're at that $10 million mark. Okay, a little bit of stuff to watch out for when we're dealing with exponential functions. Be very careful here that the base cannot be negative, must not be negative, because when you have a negative base, we start getting into problems with raising negative numbers to fractional powers. Second thing we've got to be careful with is that the base of an exponential function should not equal 1, because if you have 1 raised to a power, then that's just always equal to 1, and that's a constant function. Now that the preliminaries are out of the way, let's move our attention to graphing our first exponential function, y equals 2 to the x. We're going to begin by creating an xy chart, and I'm going to start by substituting in 0. 2 to the 0th power is 1, 2 to the first power is 2, 2 to the second power is 4. So let's plot these first 3 points. 0, 1, 1, 2, 2, 4. Now let's try negative 1. 2 to the negative first power is 1/2. So negative 1, we have a point at negative 1, 1/2. 2 to the negative second is 1/4. So here we're going to have 1/4. Now, our graph is never going to touch the x-axis. But over on the right, it's going to grow exponentially off to the right. Now, I want to call something to your attention. Notice that this graph goes through the point 0, 1. That is a very key point. And for this graph, it happens to go through 1, 2. But I'm going to write that as 1, base, because if this was y equals 3 to the x, this would be going through 1, 3. And if this was y equals 4 to the x, it would be going through 1, 4. So these are 2 key points that you really need to have memorized. And we'll talk about it a little bit later as we kind of do the chapter review towards the end. Now, looking at this graph, it extends to the left forever and extends to the right forever as it goes upward. So the domain of this graph is from negative infinity to positive infinity, and the graph is entirely above the x-axis, so its range is from 0, which we don't include, on up to infinity. So that's your basic graph of an exponential function.